This is a more in-depth look to the Aang and Katara deck. So we have, whenever Aang and Katara enter or attack, create X 1/1 white ally creature tokens, where X is the number of tapped artifacts and or creatures you control. So, of course, we're going to be doing that. It's a little expensive, 3 generic, a green, a white, and a blue. But we're going to try our best to play this a little late in the game and make as many 1/1 creature or white ally creature tokens as we can and overrun everybody with it. So for starters, we're going to want tapped creatures and artifacts, but in this case, this is mostly for the creatures. So we're going to water bend quite a bit. We've got Aang's Iceberg. When this enchantment enters, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent until this artifact leaves the battlefield. And you can waterbend 3 to sacrifice this enchantment. If you do, scry 2. So this is a good way to get rid of one of your opponent's things, or you could use it to protect Aang and Katara and then bring them back. It's got flash, so you could do it anytime. Great for protection, though. We've got a water bending lesson. Draw 3 cards, then discard a card unless you water bend 2. Just a little way to tap a couple of creatures. We got Spirit Water Revival. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may water bend 6. Draw 2 cards. If this spell's additional cost was paid, instead shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw 7 cards, and you have no maximum hand size the rest of the game. That's a great way. You get to draw cards and you get to reuse your grave. We've got Secret of Bloodbending. Cost 4 blue. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may waterbend 10. You control target opponent during their next combat phase. If this spell's additional cost was paid, you control that player during their next turn instead. Then you exile it. So that's, you get 10 tapped creatures there. We've got the Legend of Kurik. Scry 2, then draw a card. Do that twice. Once this transforms, we've got Avatar Kurik. So whenever you cast a spell, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. With this token can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. But we've also got Waterbend 20. Take an extra turn after this one. You can only do that once, but if we airbend him, then we can flip him back and flip him back over and waterbend 20 again. That's 20 tap things, artifacts, and or creatures. So when Aang and Katara enter, you know you're going to get 20 of those tokens. We've got you, the Moon Spirit. Flying Vigilance, waterbend 5, tap it. You may cast a non-creature spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. So you can cheat some expensive non-creature spells in. We've got Crashing Wave. Pay 2 blue. As an additional cost to cast a spell, waterbend X. So we can waterbend as many of our things as we can. And we tap up to X target creatures. Then distribute 3 stun counters among tapped creatures your opponents control. We've got the Water Tribe Rallier, Waterbend 5. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So we can do that as many times as we want, as long as we have 5. We've got Katara Bending Prodigy. So at the beginning of your end step, if Katara is tapped, put a +1 counter on her. Waterbend 6, draw a card. We could do that as many times as we want, as long as we have the numbers for that. So right now we've got multiples of 5, multiples of 6, and we've got multiples of 4 for Waterbending Ascension. So you can waterbend these things as much as you want with what you have to get the best out of how many tapped creatures you have when you bring Aang and Katara in. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, draw a card. So we can waterbend 4, again, as many times as we can. So target creature can't be blocked this turn. We've also got Katara, Water Tribe's Hope. She's got Vigilance. When she enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. And we can waterbend X. Creatures you control have base power and toughness of XX till end of turn. X can't be 0. Activate only on your turn. Another way to tap your creatures is we've got the Great Divide. So each land and ally you control has add 1 mana of any color. So you could just willy-nilly tap away at them for mana, even if you don't need it. And with the Great Divide, we also have the Boy in the Iceberg, or Dark Depths. So it enters with 10 ice counters on it. If you pay 3, remove an ice counter from the Boy in the Iceberg. When it has no ice counters on it, sacrifice it and create Merit Liege, a legendary 2020 Black Avatar creature token with flying and indestructible. If you have a lot of ally tokens out there, and you have the Great Divide, we should be able to afford getting out Merit Liege, or at least getting close to, and maybe the next turn getting it out. So how are we going to blink Aang and Katara so that we could get rid of it and bring it back and not pay 6? Well, we've got Aang, Swift Savior. It's got Flash, Flying. When Aang enters, airbend up to 1 other target creature or spell. And we also have Waterbend 8 to transform Aang. So we've got 2 things on here. Aang's a great way to protect your Aang and Katara as well. And once we flip it over, it's got Reach and Trample, Aang and La. Whenever Aang and La attack, put a +1/+1 counter on each tapped creature you control. So if you've waterbend 8, you know you have at least 8 creatures, and maybe even more than that, with all the water bending that you could potentially do, because you're going to want to do that for Aang and Katara's enter the battlefield trigger. We got Aang, the Last Airbender. Flying, when Aang enters, airbend up to 1 target non-land permanent. Whenever you cast a lesson spell, Aang gains lifelink till end of turn. We're really doing it for the airbending. Glider Staff, again for the airbending. When this equipment enters, airbend up to 1 target creature. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 as flying. We've got Airbending Lesson. Airbend target non-land permanent, and then draw a card. We've got Airbender's Reversal. Choose 1, destroy target attacking creature, so we got options. And airbend target creature you control. We're more likely going to be doing that. We've got Whirlwind Technique. It does cost 6 in total, but target player draws 2 cards, then discards a card. Airbend up to 2 target creatures. Again, it's an instant, so you could use it for protection as well. A bit pricey, though. We've got Appa, Loyal Sky Bison. Whenever Appa enters or attacks, choose 1. Target creature you control gains flying till end of turn. Again, options. But you can airbend another target non-land permanent you control. So we can do that over and over when Appa's entered, or every time he attacks. We have Monk Gyatso. Whenever another creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, you may airbend that creature. Just a way to protect Aang and Katara. And and then bring them back. We've got Airbender Ascension. When this enchantment enters, airbend up to 1 target creature. Whenever a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Once again, we're blinking Aang and Katara, making tons of 1/1 ally creature tokens. We have Cloud Shift. Exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. And we have Boomerang Basics. This is probably nicer to get rid of another person's creature, but you can return target non-land permanent to the owner's hand. If you controlled that permanent, draw a card. So you could do it to any of your things. Aang and Katara is a bit much because it does cost 6 to bring them back from your hand. But maybe you could bring back something that's cheaper that'll airbend them. So speaking of tokens, aside from them just making tokens, we can make our own tokens. So the more creature tokens we have, or creatures we have out, the more beneficial it's going to be to blink Aang and Katara. We've got the Jasmine Dragon Tea Shop. What we can do on that is we can pay 5, tap it, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. Probably not something we do often, but the option's there if you have nothing else to do with your mana. We can join the dance, create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens, and it's got flashback, though the flashback is a little expensive. We've got Suki, Kyoshi Warrior. Suki's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. Whenever Suki attacks, create a 1/1 white ally creature token that's tapped and attacking. Generating that every time she attacks. We've got Gather the White Lotus. Create a 1/1 white ally creature token for each planes you control and scry 2. With the Gather the White Lotus, we have energy bending. So lands you control gain all basic land types till end of turn, then draw a card. That way we can potentially make more white ally creature tokens. We've got Zuko Redeemed. If you pay 2 and a green or a white, you can tap it to create a 1/1 green or white elf warrior creature token. But the better part is paying 4, and we got a hybrid green and white, for and tap it for each creature token you control. Create a token that's a copy of that creature. Double the value of all the tokens you've made on the board. So for any creatures entering, we've got the South Pole Voyager. Whenever this creature or another ally you control enters, create a 1/1 or create 1 life. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. So all these tokens, or many of the tokens you make, are going to be allies. Many of the creatures are going to be allies. And we've got Haru, Hidden Talent. Whenever another ally you control enters, airbend 1. So if we're making a lot of ally tokens, you're going to be earthbending quite a bit. There's a few little cards in here for Scout's Warning. So the next creature card you play this turn can be played as though it has flash and then draw a card. It's for 1 white. So we could do Aang and Katara on somebody else's turn if we wanted to, or, well, flash in any creature. We've got Katara the Fearless. If a triggered ability of an ally you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So we can double the value of any of our triggers on our allies, especially Aang and Katara. We've got Taunting Challenge. So all creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. That way when we do attack, we'll probably have enough to overpower everybody, but you can just make sure by forcing them to block 1 creature and get the rest of your creatures through for lethal damage. As well as if you've got a lot of your creatures tapped, and then you bring in Aang and Katara, You'll have some creatures untapped, able to block, but Dramatic Reversal can surprise the opponent if they do decide to attack you by untapping all the tapped creatures that you've had to create your tapped creatures or other creatures. We have a few bring back or protection spells. So we've got Brought Back. Choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn and return them to the battlefield tapped. You can use that as if you have that in hand and you have the mana for it. If Aang and Katara are thrown into the grave, you can just bring them back, as well as any other creatures. We've got Uncle's Musings. It's 2 in green. Return up to X permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast the spell. I put that in there just because I thought it was cool. Appa, Steadfast Guardian. It's got Flash. When Appa enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This is good for protecting your non-creature or non-token creatures. Or, I guess another way to airbend. We've got Heroic Intervention. I'm sure somebody's going to try to board wipe. So hopefully you can use Heroic Intervention so permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. So you can stop somebody from taking away what you've just built. And we've got Aang's Shelter, or Teferi's Protection. Till your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out, then you exile it. So if you've created a big enough army, you can always use this to protect yourself and your things until the next turn when you can swing with everything. So we do have some buffs and such for our allies and our creatures. We have Flopsy, Boomy's buddy. When Flopsy enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, so you can buff them up. Each creature you control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than one creature. If you do airbend Flopsy and bring him back, you can take advantage of the entering trigger again. We've got Katara, Heroic Healer. She's got lifelink. When Katara enters, create a put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. Once again, if you had airbent Katara, you could take advantage of the enter the battlefield trigger. We've got Tale of Katara and Toph. Creatures you control have whenever this creature becomes tapped for the first time during each of your turns, put a +1/+1 counter on it. What's great about this is you will be tapping your creatures by waterbending a lot of the time and just naturally buffing them, as well as taking advantage of being able to bring in Aang and Katara and creating tokens. So we've also got the Abandoned Air Temple. The important part there is the second one for 3 and a white. Tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Again, buff. We have the White Lotus Reinforcements. It's got Vigilance, and other allies you control get +1/+1. We've got Allied Teamwork. When this enchantment enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token, and allies you control get +1/+1. So more buffing. We have Suki. Other creatures you control get +1/+0, more buffing. Whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. It only happens once each turn though, but that's okay. We have the Walls of Ba Sing Se. So it's another way to protect your creatures. It's got Defender, but it's 0/30. and other permanents you control have indestructible. So hopefully you can save yourself from board wipes. The Teferi's protection is better, but that still works. We've also got the Badger Mole. So when this creature enters Earthbend 2, creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. So if you had Haru out and you've Earthbent a lot, you've got a whole lot of creatures with +1 counters. If we have the tail of Toph and Katara or any of those other ones, Boomies, Buddy, we've got +1 counters going around. So now we've got trample to help get that damage through. And just for the heck of it, we've got Secret Tunnel for 4 and tapping it. 2 target creatures you control that share a creature type can't be blocked this turn. So we have a little bit, but not much for the removal. We have an Inspired Insurgent. Pay 1, sack this creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment. We got the Monstrous Serpent. A little pricey, but spell can't be countered. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 3/3 blue serpent creature token named Coma's Coil. So we're going to be making more creatures. But if we sacrifice a serpent, we get to choose one. Tap target permanent. Its activated abilities can't be activated this turn. Or the Monstrous Serpent gains indestructible until end of turn. We've got Katara's Reversal because it looks fun. Counter up to 4 target spells and or abilities. Untap up to 4 target artifacts and or creatures. And we've got Force of Negation. So if it's not your turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this mana's or spell's mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. So, good counter spell. We've got a bit of card draw. So we got Tuyin-La, Moon and Ocean. Whenever Tuyin-La become tapped, draw a card. So we're going to probably be doing that with the water bending. And whenever they become untapped, put a +1/+1 counter on them. We've got Prosperity, X and a blue. Each player draws X cards. We've got Suki of the Kyoshi Warriors. Every time you tap her, search your library for a legendary card, reveal that card, put it into your hand. We've got Lifelong Friendship. Search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. If it's for a creature, I'd probably get that dude who lets all my creatures tap for mana. The Great Divide. We've got Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put a card on top. And we've got Descendant's Path. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast it, put it at the bottom of your library. If it is a creature card, most likely you will be casting it because a lot of your creatures share ally or human. And finally, we have the White Lotus tile. It enters tapped, so it's already tapped for you. But you can tap it to add X mana of any one color, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. That's going to be allies. We have the Arcane Signet. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. We have Bender's Water Skin. Untap this artifact during each other player's untap step. You can add 1 mana of any color. We have the Badger Mole Cub. When it enters Earthbend 1, whenever you tap a creature for mana, you can add an additional mana. So it really only benefits if you have Haru out and you're earthbending quite a bit. We've got Explore. You may play an additional land this turn and draw a card. A little bit of ramp. And finally, we have Aang, A Lot to Learn. I only really put this card in here because I wanted to put this card somewhere. So Aang has Vigilance as long as there's a lesson card in your graveyard, and whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Aang. And that is the Aang and Katara deck, a little more in depth. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it gave some people some ideas. And thank you.